Hi, I'm Manda McKay. I'm a professional artist and I'm making these videos to give creativity tips to help people become more creative versions of themselves. I want to talk in this video about a technique that I think is great when you're trying to come up with ideas, whether you're brainstorming or using a technique I spoke about in an earlier video, brain questing as I call it. Writing down what you're coming up with, the ideas as you go, I think is a great tip to help you stay focused on what you're doing and to keep your mind from wandering too much. Now, I've made an earlier video about keeping an ideas notebook, which doesn't necessarily have to be a physical notebook, although that's helpful if you tend to work on the visual side of things, whether you're a visual artist or maybe a filmmaker. But you can also have this as a digital file of some sort. But basically to be keeping track, writing down your ideas so that you don't forget them. Because I can tell you from personal experience that even if you think, oh, this is an amazing idea, there's no way I would ever forget it, well, you'd be surprised. So I always say to go ahead and write it down. And then I have a technique that I came up with that I also spoke of in a separate video called brain questing, which is basically you're trying to come up with just the right, like let's say a title for a painting or a title for a book, and you're trying to come up with like just the right thing, and you have to keep, it's like you have to keep going down the same path, not just 2 or 3 times, but maybe 20 or 30 times before you come up with something. So while you're doing this, it can be very easy for your mind to just wander off and just kind of lose track of what you're doing. And so that's why I say to go ahead and as you're brain questing or just regular brainstorming, anytime that you're trying to come up with ideas, write it down or type it into a digital file, whatever, but just so that it will keep you focused and on track. Because I've found that if I just try to sit there and stare at the wall and come up with ideas, my mind will just wander and it will start thinking about things that have nothing to do with whatever it is I'm trying to come up with ideas for. So writing it down helps me stay on track and stay focused. And that's why I think it's so important. So again, this doesn't have to be a physical notebook, although I have heard since the dawn of time that actually writing stuff down on paper as opposed to even typing it or speaking it out loud, that for some reason writing it down connects with your brain in a separate way. And I don't know whether that's true or not, but it does seem to work for me. So, so give it a try. Like I said, I hope if you're in the habit of trying to come up with ideas, I hope you're already somehow keeping a record of them. But if you're keeping a record of them as you're coming up with ideas, even though the ideas you're coming up with aren't quite right and you're planning to reject them, still go ahead and just kind of jot them down as you're coming up with them. And that will help you stay focused and on track. And I really do think it's easier to eventually arrive at whatever the perfect, the perfect answer, the perfect title, the perfect idea is. So I hope you found this video to be helpful. Let me know in the comments, and have you tried this before? Do you think it works for you? Again, my name is Manda McKay, and thank you so much for watching.